Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. We have entered the month of May. The Cubs are 18-12, and honestly, I couldn't ask for a much better record, a 600 winning percentage going into the month. Absolutely fantastic to see. We'll break down the game yesterday. We'll talk about this Cubs prospect who might need to be called up here soon. The Cubs are discussing the potential possibility of extending Kyle Tucker, and then we'll talk about the series decider today against maybe the best pitcher in all of baseball. But before we get into all that, just want to thank you guys for all the likes, the subscribing, and the comments down below. My question for you today is, do we call up Moises Balastros? If you're not familiar with his game, go on Twitter and type in Moises or Iowa Cubs, and all you will see is highlights of this young man absolutely demolishing the baseball. So let me know in the comments, should we call up our top prospect? How does that fit in with Miguel Amaya, Carson Kelly, etc., etc.? I want to hear you guys sound off in the comments below. So let's hop into today's festivities. The Cubs, unfortunately, yesterday fall 4-3 to the Pirates. It was a perfect trap game, ladies and gentlemen. Just classic Cubs baseball. I'm not even trying to be pessimistic. Baseball's a hard game. It's not easy. I think the Cubs, the way they've played this first month, I don't want to say way above their skis. I think it's a little above their skis. I think they're not as good as the record that they had indicates, but I also don't think they're that bad of a team either. Just kind of a letdown game against the Pirates, especially against a guy, Mlodski, who has a 6+ ERA. Matt Boyd did the best he could, but I mean, it was just, again, it's going to be one of those days, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the other team's just better than you. And unfortunately, the Cubs kicked the ball around the infield a little too much. There was that weird play with the ball up the middle where I think it hit off Nico and Dansby and kind of kicked it into more right field. I also think that was the same play where the fan fell from the stands. Again, hopefully that fan is okay. So either way, but yeah, just weird series of incidents for the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs went down 2-0. They immediately answered back, which you love to see from the team. But unfortunately, the bullpen could not hold on. The Cubs are calling up reinforcements, and Chris Flexen, he was really solid for the Sox last year, and he was dealing down in AAA. So the Cubs had to call him up by yesterday, or he would have been a free agent. So hopefully Chris Flexen can either be slotted into that role where Ben Brown can be pushed to the bullpen, or he helps out in the pen. Either way, Cubs do fall 4-3, unfortunately, but still solid, steady. I mean, you're not going to beat the Pirates every time. It's really difficult to go like 12, 13-0 against a team, especially within your division. And the teams do change every year, et cetera, but it's just not easy to do. Baseball's not an easy game, so hopefully we can get that series win today against the Pirates. It's not going to be easy, but before we get into all that, let's talk about Moises Balastros. Okay, Moises is on an unbelievable tear down in AAA, ladies and gentlemen, hitting well above 300, has a 16-game hitting streak, and yesterday he hit 2 more home runs. I'm going to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, if he continues to hit like this, the Cubs are going to have to call him up before September, by the way. And it's going to make this things really interesting between Carson Kelly, Miguel Amaya, and this guy. Because if this guy really is who he's playing like in AAA, by Miguel and by Carson Kelly, or one of them is going to become the backup, because this dude is absolutely unconscious. And I don't know if the Cubs are going to call him up because of the way Carson Kelly's hitting, right? And it's not like Miguel Amaya's hitting bad either. He's doing very solid as well. The production from the catcher spot is absolutely unbelievable. So Moises, can you play third base? That's the real question. I'm just kidding. I think he's a catcher / first baseman. Maybe the Cubs call him up. He plays first, and Michael Busch goes to third. I think Michael Busch is a former third baseman. So they're going to have to get creative here in Chicago to fill that plug hole at third base. But either way, Moises, the way he's playing, the Cubs have to discuss him coming up here because he's just been unconscious. Again, coming up to the big leagues doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the best player ever, but any spark you can get in baseball, even if your offense has been fantastic like the Cubs, you can't settle. You got to keep going and going. The Cubs keep plugging in new pitchers, trying to figure out this bullpen. And honestly, I think Moises is going to, if he continues to tear up AAA, they're going to have no choice but to see what he can do at the big league level, because they're going to have to make a decision on all these guys here pretty soon. You can only keep 2 of the 3. I don't remember the last time the Cubs really consistently carried 3 catchers. I guess maybe the 2016 team, right? The year started with Miguel Montero and David Ross, but then they brought up Wilson Contreras to follow. So, curious decision that the Cubs have to deal with there. But another decision that's not as curious and should be very, very solid to make is extending Kyle Tucker. I think we all know that the Cubs need to extend Kyle Tucker. The problem here is us fans know that the Cubs don't like to spend that much money. The biggest contract in team history is Jason Hayward at 8 years, $184 million. So, reports earlier this week, David Kaplan, he said the Cubs brass, the ownership group, has come to terms that it's going to cost a little money to sign Kyle Tucker. Now, does it mean he will sign? No. Does it mean, that the Cubs won't offer him? No. But the Cubs feel like the whiff around the ballpark is the Cubs are coming to terms with spending the $450 to $600 million to sign this guy. They want him. They know the value that he brings to the Cubs. The value, it will pay back, ladies and gentlemen. That contract will pay the Cubs back. Mr. Ricketts won't have to worry about that. But again, Kyle Tucker is going to go through the process, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to be honest with you. Who wouldn't want to be courted? Who wouldn't want to sit there, have 15 to 20 teams that have a little potential interest just sitting there and be like, hey, I want to make you the face of my franchise. I want to pay you this amount of money. I want your name hanging on a banner over here. I want your name hanging on a banner over here, et cetera, et cetera. I want you to play right field for me for the next 10 years. Like, he's going to go through that. He has to go through that process. The Cubs do get a little bit of an advantage here with playing at Wrigley for this year, so they get to pitch more of an in-depth process to him. Doesn't mean he's going to sign. Doesn't mean any of that. But it feels like the Cubs might actually offer him a big deal. But here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. This is also just a great cover for the Cubs, right? They can at least just say, hey, we were prepared to make the deal. Now, if he chooses to go elsewhere, he chooses to go elsewhere. But we were prepared to offer him that amount of money. So, curious wording. I'm not so sure about it. Again, it doesn't mean anything. But I think Kyle Tucker owes it to himself to go through the process and see how it all looks on the other side, potentially. Cubs will be there with an offer. I'm sure they'll be in his top 3. But, again, we have to wait until the offseason because I just feel like there's no way he's not going to go to free agency. Can you blame the man either? Can you blame him? No. So, we do have a matinee today. It's actually at 11:40 a.m., so hopefully this video gets out in time. But going for a series win against Paul Skeens. Not an easy task at hand. I don't care if the Pirates' offense is abysmal or anything like that. Paul Skeens can give him 6 to 8 innings of 3-hit, no run to 1-run ball without a hesitation. So the Cubs are going to have to be patient with him because I think hitting him is going to be very difficult. Now, Paul Skeens can give up runs. He's a young pitcher in the major leagues. Not everyone is perfect. Maybe the Cubs bounce back. This is a different Cubs team than the one Paul Skeens faced last year. But either way, Paul Skeens throws 101 miles an hour. He's got filthy off-speed pitches. And honestly, he's just truly a pleasure to watch. So I'm hoping that he doesn't embarrass us all too much today. But if the Cubs can just survive the game, 5 innings, game's tied or they're down 1, that's plenty of opportunity to get to that Pirates bullpen and bounce back, take the series win before we head to Milwaukee for a 3-game set against the Brewers, which I'm not going to sit here and say it decides the division because it doesn't, but it absolutely writes a chapter in the book on the NL Central, no doubt about it. So it is a big game today. I'm not calling it a must-win, but I would love to see the Cubs bounce back from what happened yesterday and get the W today. So that's going to do it for me on Cubs Daily today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all the likes, the subscribing, and the comments. Again, let me know your thoughts on Moises Blastos, and if the Cubs should call him up, I'll be back tomorrow with another one. See you soon.